What's up guys, my name is Brandon and today we're going to be talking about the final version of iOS 11 on the iPhone 5S, a 4-year-old device. We're going to be talking about some of the new features and whether or not you should update to it. This is going to serve as a follow-up video to my video I made a few months back on the iPhone 5S running iOS 11 Beta 1 where I told you should definitely not update to it. So we're going to take a look at the final version of iOS 11, see how much has changed, and see if you should update to it now. So we're going to quickly go through some of the major features here in iOS 11. If you want to see all the real in-depth features of iOS 11 where I dig a little bit deeper as well, make sure to check the cards right now. I did do a full in-depth review of iOS 11. So anyways, let's go back to the lock screen here on the 5S, and you're going to notice right away that the music player is different right there. So I actually wasn't playing any music, but it does show up sometimes if you were just playing something on Apple Music. You'll also notice the notifications are a little bit different. You swipe up to see your notifications right now, and if you swipe up once again, you can see notifications from earlier today, or it'll show the day if it was a few days back. So if we go ahead and unlock our device, you'll notice that the passcode there is different as well. We do also have a different animation coming into the home screen. You'll notice that the battery icon is different up there in the top right. We also have these signal bars that look a little bit different over there in the top left. You're also going to notice just overall how much cleaner the home screen is. We don't have any of the labels down here on the dock, which looks really nice on a smaller screen. We have new app icons like for the App Store right there. The iTunes Store is different as well. We have Maps, which is different, Contacts, a lot of different new icons here in iOS 11. And then of course we have the brand new iOS 11 Control Center, which is fully customizable. You can customize all these toggles down here inside of settings. We also have the long touch capabilities now with the iPhone 5S, and any other device that does not support 3D touch, you can basically just mimic it by tapping and holding on something that you would be able to 3D touch on in a newer device. So it's really cool when you get all these different options when you long press on these icons here in the Control Center. And one thing I'm really surprised by with the Control Center here in the final version of iOS 11 is that it is so much more fluid, so much quicker and less laggy than it was in the very first beta, really any of the betas. It's a lot more fluid, and if you watch my video a few months back where I talked about it, that was one of my biggest gripes was how laggy it was in the Control Center, but Apple has definitely improved that a lot. In the final version of iOS 11, there's not much lag at all in the Control Center, at least not in my experience. Now, I will say that a lot of things are laggy when you first come back from a reboot, or if you just, are going in and out of applications and you try to go into another app really quickly, or if you try to go into the Control Center really quickly after just exiting an app, it will be a little bit slower, but that's basically just because of the RAM management. We only have 1 GB of RAM in this old device, so that's kind of expected. Now, speaking of some slight lag, if we go ahead and do a screenshot right there, you can see that there was a good amount of lag between when I pressed the two buttons together and when we actually got the screenshot showing on the screen. So that's one thing I've noticed consistently is that these screenshots are definitely laggy at times. They don't register right away. The second time it's a lot quicker, but the first time after a while, you're definitely going to notice some lag here on the 5S. As far as the actual camera application, it's still not the fastest. It's about the same as 10.3.3, but you can see taking photos is pretty quick, but if you start rapidly trying to press it, it kind of lags behind a little bit, but it's not terrible. But we don't have live photos in iOS, or on the iPhone 5S rather, so you're not going to get the new live photos effects in iOS 11 on the 5S since it does not support live photos, unfortunately. If we go over into the settings, we have emergency SOS on the iPhone 5S, which is really nice. If you press this 5 times in a row, the power button, you're going to be able to call emergency services right away. So this is definitely very useful, can save lives, and it's really good that Apple decided to keep this on the iPhone 5S as well and not leave it to just the newer devices. And that's one of the big things I've noticed with iOS 11 that I really like, is that a lot of the features in the brand new phones like the iPhone 7 and 7 Plus and then the iPhone 8 as well are also on the iPhone 5S. So Apple's not really trying to push you to update to a new phone to get some of the new features, which is really nice because that wasn't fully the case with iOS 10. There were some features that weren't on the 5S that were on the the 6S and the 7 at the time. So it's really nice that Apple decided to include most of the new features in the 5S that are also on the brand new devices like the 7 and 7 Plus. Now, one thing that's really big about iOS 11 is that you're going to get a lot of space back once you update to iOS 11, which is really nice because most people that have an iPhone 5S probably have only 16 gigs or 32 gigs of storage, which is not a ton when we're living in 2017. So I got back close to 2 gigabytes on my 5S, which is a big deal, and it's even a bigger deal if you're on a 16 gig device. So that's something to definitely take into consideration if you're running low on storage. And if we go to our settings, general accessibility, display accommodations, invert colors, we have the smart invert dark mode here in iOS 11 on the iPhone 5S as well. You can see it treats it pretty much as a dark mode, but it's not really a full dark mode. It's not, it doesn't work in every single application, and it also doesn't really look that great on the home screen screen as well. So this is another cool feature though that is included on the iPhone 5S in iOS 11. Now, one of my favorite features overall in iOS 11 is the brand new App Store. So it's definitely, not as clean and not as fluid on the iPhone 5S. I shouldn't say clean, it's just not as fluid and you can't fit as much on the screen on the iPhone 5S, but definitely the whole new layout and UI of the App Store is just amazing in iOS 11. You have the Today view, which is my favorite place to be. It's basically just focused on discoverability. People curate the content here, so you can always be finding new applications and things like that, and articles, all kind of cool things here on the Today view in the new App Store. But of course, applications aren't the quickest to download here on the iPhone 5S. Now, another feature I should mention that is very useful for iPhone 5S users on iOS 11 is the Offload applications feature. So if you go into our iTunes and App Store settings, you're going to notice that we have a new toggle here for offload unused applications. This is something you should definitely look into if you are on a 5S and you only have 16 gigs or 32 gigs of storage. So you can read here, it says automatically remove unused applications but keep all documents and data. Reinstalling the app will place back your data if the app is still available in the App Store. So this is definitely very useful if you're running low on storage all the time on your iPhone 5S. So let's talk about third-party applications now. So this is where my big gripe with iOS 11 is. So let's go into Twitter, because I am on Twitter all the time, and you can see first of all that it takes forever to load, and then when you finally get in here and you start pressing the home button to go to the top to see your new tweets, it also takes forever and lags a ton when you go to the very top of your timeline. And then just scrolling around and just going to profiles and things like that and tweets is just so laggy. You can see when I touch on something, there's just a significant lag every time I go to a new profile. Look at this. It's taking forever to go to this profile, to likes. You can see it just takes a good while to load, and there's a good amount of lag every time I press a button. And this isn't just Twitter either. It's most third-party applications that I've noticed this in, especially social media. Snapchat is the same way. Snapchat's about just as laggy as Twitter. YouTube's not as bad as it was in the first beta, but still, not great. But Twitter is an application that I use all the time and the one that I've noticed the most lag in compared to some of the newer devices. I understand that it's a 4-year-old device with only 1 GB of RAM, but still, it's pretty slow, especially compared to 10.3.3. I feel like 10.3.3 was quicker with third-party applications than iOS 11 is. So if you use a lot of third-party applications, which I'm assuming 99.9% of you do on your iPhone 5S, this is going to be a major concern for you. But overall, the performance on the final version of iOS 11 on the 5S is definitely better than the betas, and the only major lag I notice consistently is when dealing with third-party applications and then when taking screenshots and pulling up the whole UI of the screenshot. However, I still get the feeling that after playing with iOS 11 for a couple days on the iPhone 5S, that 10.3.3 is still slightly smoother when dealing with third-party applications and just pretty much everything overall. I still feel like 10.3.3 is just a bit smoother. Now, with that being said, the storage space you get back on iOS 11 is definitely nice, and the new features may be very enticing and tempting for you to update to it, but that's just going to have to be, a decision that you make. Now, one last thing that I'm going to throw at you and that you should strongly consider is that the battery life on iOS 11 is worse than 10.3.3. Now, I'm not going to say that it's much worse because I can't really say that it is much worse, but it's noticeably worse than 10.3.3. And obviously, battery life is a big deal to people on an iPhone 5S because it doesn't have the best battery to begin with. So you're going to want to get something with the best battery life possible, and that's not going to be iOS 11. So you might just want to wait for iOS 11.0.1 or 11.1, whatever it ends up being that fixes the battery issues and may improve battery life on the iPhone 5S if it ever happens. So yeah, overall, iOS 11 on the iPhone 5S is solid given how old the device is. It's a 4-year-old device, again, with 1 GB of RAM, but it still stutters quite frequently in third-party applications, which is definitely very annoying if you're always on social media. The battery life is also worse, which is a deal breaker for a lot of people. So, really just take everything I said into consideration and decide if you want to update or not. I'm not going to tell you you should or you shouldn't update just because I think that's your decision to make. I'm going to keep my iPhone 5S on iOS 11 here because I love all the new features, and it's not my daily driver, so I'm not too concerned about the battery life. But yeah, if you have an iPhone 5S and you are on iOS 11, let me know how your experience has been. I'm really curious to see. But anyways, guys, thanks for watching this video. I hope you did enjoy it. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up. Also, make sure to subscribe for a lot more content coming soon. So thanks again for watching, guys, and I'll see you soon.